Hi, my name is Eero Kafetz, and this is the List Building Lifestyle, the only podcast which delivers cutting-edge conversion strategies from the online trenches straight to your earbuds. Download the transcript of today's episode and all future episodes at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com. I also invite you to grab a free copy of the Wealthy List Builder Survival Guide at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com/survival. And now, once again, it's time to claim your list building lifestyle. Next time you're at a marketing event, walk up to the first person you see and ask them, there was a big red button you could push that would solve the biggest problem in your business, what would that problem be? 9 times out of 10, you'll get the same answer: traffic. Just like you can never be too skinny or too rich, you can never drive too much traffic to your site. It's undoubtedly a big problem for internet marketers. And in spite of the internet offering more and more ways to get clicks each and every day, the job of getting targeted hits to your links is not getting any easier. In fact, it only got harder. My guest today knows this firsthand because he's in the traffic getting business. He's the founder of Press Cable, a press release distribution service. If you got a product, a service, or a book, or anything newsworthy, or even if you're just an affiliate marketer, Chris Munch can help you get listed on news sites across the world to get more exposure and more traffic. Chris, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Hey, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Look, I've never used press releases to drive traffic, but I intend to with the upcoming release of my book, The List Building Lifestyle, which is why I'm particularly interested in picking your brains about the science of getting traffic through press releases. So, with that said, let's start with the obvious. What is a press release?
So it's a very, very interesting question, right? So press releases, they started in 1905. There was a train crash and the company behind it had a bit of a PR nightmare. So they wanted to try and make the best of a bad situation. And so that's when the first press release was sent out. And what's really interesting is kind of the rules which were set up in the early days of a press release when journalists and the media was very, very different. That's the rules which really govern press releases today. So when people think about press releases, they're often thinking and associating with, stuff that was done in the 1980s. And today, press releases are used in a completely different way. So we used to think that, hey, I've got a cool new announcement, I'm launching a new product, let's put out a press release and send it to all these journalists, and then the journalists are going to cover it in the news, and that's how I'm going to get press and be successful, right? That's how you probably think of it right now, something along those lines.
That's exactly how I was thinking about it right now.
And so that still does exist, and there are press releases which do that, right? But really, if you ask the average journalist how they would want to find out about news, they would probably say, I don't want to get a press release. I get thousands of press releases a day. They're all a load of junk. They're too long. They don't get to the point. Today is really busy. I want just a one-line summary of what's going on, right? They don't want a big 300-word or 500-word or 1,000-word piece, right? They just want the headline. That's all they care about. And so journalists consistently say they don't like press releases. And there's numerous deeper reasons for that as well. And so the question is, well, press releases are still really popular. There's tens of thousands of them going out every week online, right? And through other distribution channels. So what really are they used for? Well, the answer to that is instead of actually taking your news or your announcement or the information that you want to share with the world and hoping a journalist might pick it up, you can use press releases today to just simply put your news out directly to the world. So whatever announcement or news or information it is that you want to share, then that can be put out there. And if you're using the right channel, then that's going to land in Google News. It's going to be published on mainstream media sites directly. So, you don't even have to go via the journalist. That information is going to be out there and on many other websites, blogs, and platforms as well. And so what it really comes down to is if you want to share a new product, an announcement, some information, something about your business, something that you're doing, and you want to get that out there and share that with your world, and you don't have your own blog or way to get that out there, you want to do something in addition to that, then an online press release works incredibly well for that. And it skips the need to actually reach a blogger or a journalist. And if a blogger or a journalist also covers it, then that's a great bonus. And so that's really where things have gone today. And what's interesting is in the entire press release industry, No one acknowledges that. To me, it's very, very weird. And so we acknowledge that. We see that's how press releases are being used online by the majority of companies. And so we really focus on using the releases in that way rather than trying to pretend that it's going to get a journalist, which is what most of these companies out there are doing. And essentially in many ways, just saying things to their customers which aren't really going to happen.
Wow, interesting. So it sounds like in the last 20 years or so, the news game, the news industry has changed tremendously. And it just sounds like it to me as if we, the people who have absolutely no control over the newspapers and the media, but we can dictate the news, skipping the journalists, skipping the power players.
Yeah, exactly. So what's really interesting is we live in a world which is very, very unequal. So the big corporations, the people in power, the people who have money, they spend an immense amount on getting the best technology, the best PR people, right, the best marketers to put out their agenda and their information, right? And so what about everyone else? How is the little guy going to get his news out there? How is he going to get seen and be heard and have a platform to speak on? Right. And I don't know, like, if you're watching like what's in the news right now about Cambridge Analytica, you start to realize just how advanced and sophisticated a lot of this whole PR and this media manipulation, right, and all this marketing really, really is. And so for me, it's really a mission within our company to help level the playing field so that the smaller business, right, the entrepreneur with a great idea, right, the charity, the organization that wants to get something out there which is important but doesn't have their own soapbox, to make it easier for them to do and give them the tools and the platform to be able to do that. And so that's what we're really focused on. And that's not an easy mission. That's, this is a long-term mission. And little by little, we're cracking away at that. And we've had tremendous results helping small and medium businesses grow and get traffic and reach their audience and get their ideas out there in a very easy and scalable way.
Interesting. Okay, so before we get into the how-tos, perhaps of how to write an actual press release, which doesn't sound all that complicated based on what I'm hearing so far, this is just me being curious. What would you say is the single biggest success story you're proud of that your company, Press Cable, was able to help create? Like, give me an example of a really small or fairly small or medium-sized business that learned firsthand the benefits of successfully publishing a press release.
Yeah, so it's a great question. So we've had like just so many great success stories and case studies that come into us on a weekly basis of people who are following the method which we show to get their content out there and to write it in a certain way which gets them results, gets them traffic, and gets them seen. And we really stumbled on this in like an experimental way. So like I do have like over a decade of experience in doing press releases and content marketing. And so I've been doing this for a long time in different ways. But one thing which was really interesting is when we started working with local businesses was just how well it worked for local businesses, because we started to see people coming in and using our platform for local businesses and getting them really, really strong results. And they just kept coming back and doing more and more releases for these small businesses and doing more and more announcements. And so we thought there's something quite interesting here. And so we went out and we started working with some local businesses to just really get a feel for how all that went. And Jay Cruz, who's on our team here at Press Cable, and when he first started with us, he went out as an agency, and he wanted to get some clients and local businesses to start working with. And his auntie had been seeing a physiotherapist, and he saw his auntie, like who is normally like, unable to move so freely. He saw that she was, upbeat. She was moving with more freedom. And he was like, oh, what's happened? Why is there this change in character? And she told him about the physiotherapist. And he was like, I want to work with this physiotherapist and I want to help him grow his business. And so he went in, he said, what type of clients would you like to work with? What do you want to have more exposure for? And so, they sat down and had a plan, and he started putting out a release each month, making an announcement for the business. And within about 4 months, the business had at least doubled in terms of the number of clients that they had coming through. So the guy who's called Cam at this physio just outside of London, he was working by himself. He had one bed for clients, and he had grown it within a few months then to 3 beds, and I think he had at least one other person working with him. And when we sat down and ran the numbers, it was a 2 to 3 times increase, and that like amounted to hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so we've seen cases like that over and over and over again. So it's really, really exciting to work with small businesses, e-commerce companies, and just all sorts of different types of businesses, and have that impact.
Wow. Well, here's something that doesn't quite fit into my mind at this point because of my limited understanding of press releases. Like a press release to me is something global, right? So if I send out a press release out in the world, I imagine, being published on sites that have nothing to do with my local environment. So if I run, if I'm a physiotherapist and I can only serve people in the area, say around, London or maybe around some other city, hopefully, of course, a major city, like how does that get me more customers on a local scale? That's something that I'm really, really curious about.
Yeah, so that's a really interesting question, and we get that one a lot. And so I'll give you a story which really helps explain this. So we had an agency that was using our platform, right? Still uses our platform today. And her name is Christina, and she was based in Australia, right? And a lot of our distribution is US centric. So it goes to a lot of US websites, primarily some Canadian websites and some international sites around the world. And so the announcement that she made for her client in Australia, which was in some small rural town in Australia, ended up in Google News and on some of these mainstream news sites in the US, like say Fox Vegas, for example. And a journalist was scrolling through their searches and their news feed, like looking for stories in the local area, and they saw that the story had been featured and published on a site in the US, and it caught their attention just for that reason, and they ended up covering it in the local newspaper as a result. So it's one of the examples where like a journalist actually picked this up. But that journalist could have just have easily been a consumer or customer searching for that business as well. And so what we see is just because we live in such an international community now that it doesn't really matter where you publish content, people still have a way of finding it.
Okay, fair enough. So obviously, a big portion of my listeners have their own businesses offline. Most of them, if not all of them, have online businesses, either promoting someone else's products, which is, you and I know this by affiliate marketing. We've been doing this our entire lives now. Or they have their own thing that they want to promote. So naturally, they're all wondering, okay, Chris, tell us, the specifics. Tell us how to write a press release.
Right. So when you think of writing a press release, first of all, right, you might think that, well, I need to get this right because I'm pitching to journalists. That might be like your first kind of feeling. Would that be right?
Well, I'm thinking of a big news, like I'm thinking Forbes. Like, how do I pitch my product to Forbes magazine? That's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, exactly. And so again, it comes back to that thought process that I'm pitching to a journalist, right? And that's not really what's happening. Again, you're putting out news or an announcement about your business. And an announcement can be anything, right? So if you think, if Apple launches a new product, then, they make an announcement about it. If Apple does something very, very small, like, announce a new feature on a phone, then they're going to put an announcement out about that. And so any small business is really in a position to make an announcement about anything that they want to. This is what we call leveling the playfield. If Apple can make an announcement about something that they're doing with their product, then why can't a small business make an announcement about something that they're doing in their business, or a service which they offer, or a product which they offer?
Well, right? I can answer that. That because a small business, and I know because we're pretty big. We're pretty much the biggest in our space, but I still consider myself to be fairly small when it comes to the global scale of it, because we're only known in this ultra specific niche of internet marketing traffic. But I'd say that the reason I would not even bother, and the reason I never bothered, is because I don't think anyone would actually care.
Okay. And so if you think that no one would care about your business, then I would ask you then why are you in business in the first place, right? Obviously people care about your business. You have an audience, right? There's people listening to this right now. And so people do care about your business. You have an audience. And so when people think of a press release, they think of telling the entire world, but that's not what a press release is. When you put out a press release, right? Just like when you put out any piece of content, that's going to reach your audience. Your audience will find it. It's like if you make a blog post, if you put out any piece of content, it's with an intention that it's going to reach the right audience. And that's what happens when you put out a press release. Because of the way the internet works and people can find their way to your content, that's essentially what happens. So, like as a very simple example, it can end up in Google News. People who are searching for information in Google News or within Google or within Yahoo and places like that, they're going to find the content which you put out. So it's another channel which is going to bring a targeted audience to you. And so it's about what announcement would you feel comfortable making, or what do you want to share about your business and what you're doing with your potential audience? Because you're not pitching to Forbes. You're putting an announcement out to your business, essentially to your people. That's how it should be looked at. It's content marketing. You're not pitching to journalists. You're not pitching to Forbes. If that happens, great. But if you want to pitch to Forbes, to be honest, a press release is not the way to go about it. There's different ways that you would do that. An online press release is specifically for you to put out news, announcement, and information about your business, which then attracts the right people to you. Does that make sense?
So then it allows me to shift my paradigm from seeing this as me standing on the top of a box in the middle of the New York train station or something like that and shouting, "Hey, look at my business! My business does this or does that." Now, what you're saying is this is like publishing a blog post, but it gets to reach all these publications, giving me the exposure, but I have to do it with the idea of getting my target market. So in other words, I have to write about things that they care about, therefore they will care to reach out to me to help solve their problems.
Exactly. And it's like if you're putting out a blog post, you'd put that on your own site. But what happens if you could take that content and write it in the style of a press release, right? And make an announcement that's then put out on all sorts of different websites, on all sorts of different platforms. You're not just putting it out on your own site, you're putting it out on all these other sites. And so you drastically increase the chance that you're going to reach the people that you want to reach, so that they have other avenues in which that they can find you. And we've just found this, to be incredibly effective when you use the right strategy.
Okay, interesting. Now I'm really excited about press releases. I'm definitely going to use them for quite a few things, and we're probably going to chat about this once we're done with this interview. But my next question is, I'm going to try and get a few more specifics from you about how to actually do it. So obviously, as far as distribution, we're going to use your service. That's a no-brainer. However, how about writing that press release? Like, how long does it need to be? Do I need to include any keywords? Do I need to structure it in a certain way?
Yeah. Okay. So first I'll just address the distribution, because that's really, really important. So there's lots of companies out there essentially pretending to be press release distribution platforms, and they're really nothing but spam, right? So they say they distribute, but then when you look at where they published, like no one really has a chance of finding what you've put out there. So first of all, you have to be very, very careful who you distribute with. Because one, you don't want to have it landing on sites which are spam. That's not going to be good for you. And you want to make sure that you're reaching sites that people read, right? That are trusted, that have essentially authority, that are going to help you be able to reach people. So that's very, very important. And that's something that we focus on. And we have by far the best distribution for the price we offer. And secondly, then when it comes to writing and how you structure that, essentially you want to think carefully about the headline which you're writing, right? So you want to make sure the headline describes what you're talking about. You want to make it newsworthy if that's relevant. So with a press release, it could be a newsworthy announcement, as in something that might get picked up by journalists, or it could be just simply an announcement about the company and what you do, in which case it doesn't have to be written in a newsworthy way, right? Because it's not necessarily something that is more traditional news that you might get, say, on a news website. It's more the type of news as like, this is news about this company. So you still want it to be catchy, but you don't have to focus so heavily on the virality of that, because it's not necessarily something that people would share, but it is news that someone who's relevant in your target audience would want to read. And in those cases, you want to be very careful about the keywords you choose in there, so that if they are searching through Google or Google News or other sites, that they're able to find the content. And so we're very precise in the keyword strategy which we teach, to be very, very descriptive about what's in the post. And it's something very unique to what we do as a company. It's something that I've been doing for over a decade. We've used this to pull in millions upon millions of visitors from various sites. And so that's something which we train people on, and something that we also do in our own done for you service for our clients. But essentially thinking very carefully about the keywords in the headline is so very, very, very important, because that affects where it appears and where it's going to be found. And then secondly, like one thing we recommend is you have a short first paragraph which summarizes what the content is about, what the news announcement is about. So just really summarize it in that first paragraph. And then in the second paragraph, you essentially just link through to your website, right? Or your blog post or your announcement or whatever it is that you want to drive people to. It could be your product page. Because rather than having people read the entire article, you probably want to get them to click through as quickly as possible. And if you just wait until the end to enter your link, then just the nature of people on the internet, like most people don't read past the first 100 words. So you want to grab them very, very, very quickly. So we always recommend putting the link in the second paragraph. And then if people want to read more information before they click through, they can read through the rest of the announcements. In terms of the structure of it, you make sure that you're writing in the third person, right? And there's a few other little rules around that, but within our platform, if you're writing it yourself, it corrects you as you go on and tells you if you need to make any changes. And so we also have a wizard which helps people as they go through it. We'll ask them some questions like, what is the news that you want to share? What are what's the first point that you want to get across? What is a quote from someone in the company? Questions like that. And so it essentially prods you, and then it puts together a draft of the release, which you can then go through and edit. So even if you've got zero experience, then you can go through and just essentially fill in a form, which takes anywhere from about 15 to 30 minutes. And then you've got a draft release, which you can go ahead and proofread.
Wow.
So it's actually a lot easier. Like people think like a press release is very, very difficult to write, but once they get in there and they go through and do that, it's actually very, very simple and easy. And we've seen people like literally put them together in like 5-10 minutes using this tool.
Well, I'm definitely trying that out. And the fact, when you were explaining the rules, the do's and don'ts, even for someone like me, and I mean, I produced 2,000 words of content before, 8 a.m. today. So I have no problem with creating content, but still, I was afraid of the whole, press release structure and getting it right, because nobody likes making mistakes.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody likes wasting time to make mistakes. We all want to like get it done right from the very first time. So I'm really happy that your platform points me in the right direction using questions, because that's, I mean, for me, this has been extremely effective, which is why I love getting mentorship from other people, because a true mentor, what they do is they ask you the right questions so you come up with the correct answers for yourself. Yeah. So when your software does that, I trust that I will be able to do a pretty good job as far as writing my press release and getting it proofread by someone who understands it.
Yeah, and our software, like as you go through, it's going to tell you like if you made some of the most common mistakes, right? And so it'll say like, hey, like you didn't write this in the third person, so you need to change that. It's going to highlight that and tell you to change that. And then once you submit it, if you did make a mistake which isn't within the guidelines for the news sites, right, the editorial team will pick it up and they'll send it back to you and advise what you need to change. So and like after doing 2 or 3, you've really got it down at that point. And again, like most of our clients actually just opt for us to do that side for them. So they give us a little bit of information, and we go ahead and we do the the keyword research, we optimize the title, we structure the release in the way which we know is most effective, and just essentially handle it all for them.
What's if you don't mind me asking, what's the price difference in that?
So I mean, it depends like what volume that you're doing, but we have for one release, which is written by us, our regular price is $259. But if people are doing higher volume, then they're more than welcome to get in touch with us as well. So, a lot of our clients are agencies, they're doing higher volume. And so we do volume deals as well.
Okay, got it. So it's the price may go down slightly based on volume. And now you mentioned this several times throughout the interview, which makes me wonder. So you said that one client that you brought up as an example did once a week or once a month or something like that.
Once a month, yeah.
Yeah. Now you're saying that based on volume you can get better price. So is press release something we do once for every product, or is that something we do on an ongoing basis? How does that work?
So it really depends on the situation. So it depends how much you have to talk about a product. So like, let's say you're selling, let's say a spoon, right? It might just be a regular spoon. So there's not really a lot you can say about that. You probably just announce that you're selling a spoon, right? It's not the most interesting thing. But you might be selling a high-tech gadget, right? In which there's lots of different components, lots of different things it can do. And so you could do releases on, one release on one feature, another release on another feature, and so on. And so it's very dependent on what the product and service is. So for example, for local businesses, right? A dentist offers several different services, from teeth whitening to teeth removal, like just all sorts of different things and services which they do. And so you can go through and they can do an announcement about all of those different things. And so in your business, there's probably many different angles and different announcements and different things that you want to share with the world and different angles at which you can do it. And so that's why we recommend for, the average business and the average product, you can do a release once a month on that. Some businesses maybe a little bit more, and other businesses will be less.
Interesting. Well, I can think of quite a few things because I'm writing emails to my list every day, sometimes up to 3 times a day, about our services. There's definitely, but I use the infotaining approach where a lot of times I don't even talk about my product. They talk about, what the prospect is going through. So the press release sounds like a slightly different approach where I do have to talk about the features of my product. Not even the benefits, but more so the features of it. Am I getting it right?
Yeah, so the way that we look at it is you might focus on the features, you might focus on the benefits, you might focus on the problems that you're solving for the client or the customer or the patient, right? It might be an announcement about some changes within the company. You could do that, right? And it could be just an announcement about just something that you're doing or launching as well. So really, like, it's if you've got some information to share, then usually that can go out in a press release, right? And remember, you're not pitching it to Forbes, you're sending it out there for your audience. So it shouldn't be something, incredibly mundane. You're not going to put out a press release every single month on the exact same thing. It should always be about something different within your business that you want to share with the world, just like you would do with a blog post. Except with this, it's more of an announcement angle. You're announcing something new or something that you're doing or something that you want to share. So if you look at it like an announcement, that's really the angle that you want to go with. And so what feature can you announce? What problem can you announce that you're solving, and so on?
In that case, it's not much different from the usual type of marketing that I personally do and that I recommend doing on the show all the time.
Yeah.
Talk about your prospects' pains and frustrations, offer a solution to that pain, maybe twist the knife a little bit, but I'm guessing you don't do that in the press release. It's more about, getting the people who already know what their problem is and they're just looking for that solution. So it sounds like there's quite a few things that we can discuss, but obviously we don't have the time to do it on the show. So a great logical next step for anyone, including myself, who want to find out more about how to get more traffic with press releases, where should we go, Chris? Point us, tell us where to go.
Yeah, so if any of what we've talked about today interested you, if you want to learn more about our keyword strategy, about where we distribute to, and how, like, because it's much easier to see visually, right? Like where that traffic comes from and what it looks like, and just the overall strategy, how to put the release together, then head to go.presscable.com/red pill. And we have our training on what we call red pill traffic, because like if you've listened today to what I've been talking about, you'll realize that our approach to press releases and traffic is a little bit different. And so we really open the rabbit hole on that, and we call it essentially taking the red pill approach to traffic. So it's go.presscable.com/red pill, and you can sign up for a training session there, which will take you through everything which we do.
All right. Thank you very much, Chris. Guys, you heard him. Again, the URL is, and I'm just going to pull it out here, I wrote it down. It's go.presscable, that's .com/red pill. You will be taken to a page where you'll be able to attend a free training where Chris and his partner Jay will instruct you and show you how to get more traffic using press releases. And it definitely sounds like something you want to check out if you own a local business. It definitely sounds like something you need to check out if you're an author or have a company that solves a solution, that solves a problem. It's definitely something you want to check out if you got a service. If you're a service provider like myself, we are in the business of helping people get traffic. So, by now, it's for you if you've been listening. And yeah, so I'm excited. I'm honestly excited because we didn't have too many episodes about getting more traffic on the show, because I sort of assume everyone should do, solo ads, and I sell a lot against Facebook ads, which I don't perceive to be a very quality traffic source because of how much time it takes to convert a Facebook prospect, how expensive it has become to get one, and of course how absolutely disengaged a social media visitor can be compared to an email visitor. But press releases, they sound like something that we need to try out, and I'm really happy that you were able to come in and share all these insights and insider secrets about what press releases are, especially switching the paradigm from believing, well, for me, right? I can only speak for myself, from believing that I'm supposed to pitch Forbes, on my product and that no one cares, to recognizing that there are people out there who care, the people who I can help improve, their lives, and that it's nowhere near what I thought it was. So, Chris, again, thank you very much. And guys, if you're looking to learn more about press releases and how to use them to drive more traffic, just go to go.presscable.com/red pill. And so, Chris, as ever, really, really grateful for sharing the wisdom. Any last piece of advice for our listeners?
So, I've been in business a long time. And so ultimately, like, everything comes down to taking action. So, whether it's with this strategy or, many of the other amazing podcasts that you share, it's just really about just taking the next step, which is just going to help you grow and move you forward. So I always like to ask myself the question, what's the next thing that I can do that's going to move the needle in my business and help me move forward? So I'm thinking that thing like every day. It's kind of like a mantra just going around in my head. So what's going to move the needle for you? What's the next step that you can work on and just jump in and take action?
All right, so you heard the man, and this is a pretty cool word of advice, because the one thing that I've learned actually recently, even after I've made my 7 figures, right, is that many times when it comes to incorporating a new strategy, a new technique, or launching a new product, I tend to be very afraid. But once I get into it, it's not scary at all, because I end up figuring things out as I go, and I don't know, it just works that way for me. It seems scary from a distance, but once you get into it, it's really not. So I'm really hopeful that based on what you shared with us today, that press releases are no different, and that we can use them to drive more traffic to our sites, services, links, and blogs. So, Chris, thank you very much. List Builders, thank you for listening. And until next time we chat, have a good one.
Thank you for listening to the List Building Lifestyle. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes or Google Play to never miss an episode. Because who knows, just one conversion tactic we share on the show might double your list and double your business. Download the transcript of today's episode and all future episodes at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com. And don't forget to claim your complimentary copy of the Wealthy List Builder Survival Guide at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com/survival. This is Igor Kafetz, and until next time we talk, have a good one.